Well, welcome everybody. My name is Paige Nickel with FranNet, and we're going to be doing a webinar here on business ownership opportunities, specifically focusing on low-cost franchises. So I'm going to introduce myself here in just a second, and then we will have Red Boswell from Expense Reduction Analyst do a presentation on one of the exciting low-cost franchises that you might want to hear about. If you're listening in, I might suggest for now put yourself on mute if you already haven't, and then when we get to the question and answer period, we can take you off mute and we can go through your questions and answers. We'll probably go for about 30 minutes, just if you want to monitor that, but we should be done sometime between about 12:30 and 12:40, depending on how the questions and answers go. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and I'll do a little bit of introduction about myself and about who FranNet is and how we work with people helping them find a franchise opportunity. So again, my name is Paige Nickel. I am a FranNet representative working in the Southern California area. I work along with my brother Blair Nickel, who works in the Pacific Northwest. So between the two of us, we cover a pretty large territory for FranNet. Myself, I've been in franchising for about 30 years. I've got my start with mailboxes, et cetera, way back in the late 80s, and developed 65 mailboxes, et cetera, locations. They're now called UPS stores, as most of you are aware. And then I got involved with FranNet along with my brother Blair back about 15 years ago. FranNet's been around for about almost 30 years now. But effectively what we do and what FranNet does is help people decide if business ownership, and specifically if franchising, is a good avenue for them to go into business ownership. And how we do that is we do it on a consultative basis where we work with our clients. We take them through an assessment. There's a assessment form that we use that helps people determine, a little bit more about their background, their skill sets, what types of businesses are going to be appropriate for them. And then we do one-on-one consulting in person to really help determine what someone's business model is. And so with over 3,000 different franchise concepts out there, there's no way that all 3,000 can fit for any one individual. What FranNet's role is to narrow that focus down to maybe 3 or 4 concepts that are specifically ideal for that individual based on their assessment and by meeting with that person one-on-one. More importantly, what we do is we coach. So we coach people through a 2 to 3 month process where we really help them determine what that businesses are about. Are these the right fit? Are they affordable? Will they enjoy the business? And then we also help them with finance and things of that nature. The ultimate goal is to get one, which is one, maybe now is not the right time to own a business for franchise, and specifically are the ones that we're looking at ideal for what you're trying to accomplish. FranNet represents over 100 different concepts, so we are going to be hearing from one of those concepts today. But literally, we work with food and retail and service and white-collar B2B, all different types of things. So that's one of the other value adds is we are going to introduce you to concepts that you may not otherwise hear about. And I think you're going to be excited to hear today because it's a concept that you may not know about, but it's actually been around for quite some time. So here's a little bit of about turning your dreams into reality. I imagine most of you have a dream or have thought at one point in time about owning your own business. And then the question is, how do you go from the dream stage to the reality stage? Well, what you don't want to do is just go out and say, hey, I saw this business or a friend of mine told me about this business and I think this looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I mean, that would be foolhardy. What really you want to do, and that's where FranNet helps, is go through a very active research process. And just so you know, there's no obligation to work with us. There's no cost. We get paid by the franchise owners, not by you. So in a way, it's kind of like going out and looking at a house for the first time and trying to decide if you want to be a homeowner. In working with that real estate agent, they're going to help show you which homes are specifically ideal for you. And if you end up buying the home, great. They get paid by the seller of the home or the seller's broker. And if you don't buy a home, it doesn't cost you anything. You learn some valuable information. We're also here to help you reduce risk and also to optimize the results by matching you up with the right businesses and also, as I said before, businesses that you may not hear about otherwise. As far as expectations, what's realistic? Realistically, it's going out there and recognizing that there are a lot of great franchises out there, and there are a lot of people that are very successful in franchising. But what you'll find is a common denominator is they spend a lot of time researching the concept that they're going into, and they made sure that their expectations were met by knowing exactly what they were doing. And that's where FranNet's research process comes into play. What's not realistic is that by listening to this short webinar today, that you're going to say, boy, that's the franchise for me. That's probably not going to happen. The goal would be is that you either say, boy, that's a very interesting franchise, and I'd like to learn more about it, and we can chat about how to do that. Or, you know what, that's not a business that would fit for me, but I think that maybe FranNet's process fits for me, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about what other types of concepts may be appropriate, and then we can talk to you about how to do that. So you'll get some information sent to you after this webinar that if you're not already working with myself or Blair or one of our associates, how you would go ahead about learning more about FranNet and taking our online assessment. So a little bit we'll talk about franchising, kind of what's going on, and then what we're going to do is introduce you to Red Boswell from Expense Reduction Analyst, and then Red will go through a brief presentation about his concept. So a little bit about franchising, and this is just kind of a general overview. As mentioned before, there's over 3,000 different concepts out there, but they're kind of broken down into 4 categories: outbound retail, inbound retail, sales and service, and master or area development. Most of us are familiar with inbound retail. These are your UPS stores, your Subway sandwiches, your Supercuts, Massage Envy, any retail bricks and mortar business where clients are coming to you, meaning it's the type of business that you have a location with a sign outside and people are primarily coming to you. That's more of an inbound retail concept. Those concepts are good, especially if you don't want to have to run the business on a full-time basis. Generally, when you see those businesses, there's a manager in there running those. And they range on the low end from $150,000 to several hundred thousand, even into the millions if you get into like a McDonald's or a Burger King or something like that. And then there's outbound retail. Outbound retail is where you have a specific location. It could be a staffing agency. It could be a commercial sign business. Anything where you have a physical location, but you or a sales team are going out to build relationships. So those are also great businesses, but more the owner is going to have to be actively involved because they're going to have to go out and either manage a sales team or they're going to have to be the sales arm of the business that's going to go out. And I would say those businesses tend to range from about $100,000 into the several $100,000 range. But again, they're businesses that are bricks and mortar based, but you have a sales force that goes out and builds relationships. And then there's sales and service businesses, and these can be blue collar, consumer based, or white collar based. ERA is more of a white collar based business, and they'll talk to you about how they work. Also, senior care would run into this. If you're going out to build a senior care business, you might not have a physical location, but you're going to go out and provide services to bring caregivers into people's homes. So that would be more of a consumer-based concept. And then Red will talk a little bit about what a white-collar B2B sales and service business concept looks like. On sales and service, the advantage there is they're very low cost. It can be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to get the business started. You can often run them from your home or from an executive office. And they're businesses that don't require employees generally or very few. So they're businesses that sometimes clients like because they ramp up very quickly and they really don't have any limit in terms of upside, plus they're fairly inexpensive to start. But of all the options here, they're definitely the ones where the owner has to be involved full-time, and probably for most of the business they're going to be involved. And then the last category here, master and area developer. This is a little bit unique. Area developers specifically, Jersey Mike's would be an example of this. So this is very common in food, where people buy a region, say Portland, Oregon, or Orange County or something like that, and they agree to develop, own, and operate all the locations within that region. A master developer is someone, I was a master developer for mailboxes, et cetera. I didn't own all the locations, but my brother and I developed 65 mailboxes, et cetera, and the owners in there ran the businesses. So as a master developer, we got a percentage of the business that they produced in terms of royalties, but we didn't own all the franchises. So basically, those are the 4 ways you can go into franchising. The one we're going to focus on today, and because it's low cost, and by the way, that doesn't mean low return. Low cost just means it's a fairly inexpensive business to own and operate, but the returns are commensurate with how much time and energy you want to put into the business. So what we would like to do is have Red Boswell come online and introduce himself. And Red will talk to you a little bit about expense reduction analysts, their franchise opportunity, and then when we get all done with Red's slides, we'll open it up for questions and answers, and you're welcome to ask either myself or Red questions either about his franchise or about FranNet in general. So Red, if you're online, I'll turn the mic over to you and let you go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you so much, Paige. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Appreciate it. No one in franchising and franchise consulting is more respected than Paige and Blair Nickel. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that they're globally known. They're quite the legends in franchising from a consultant standpoint, and we, ERA, appreciate their partnership and they're just the ability to work with them closely as we do very much. So thank you, Paige, for having me on the call today. Thank you, Blair, for having me on. Excited about sharing with you the ERA model. I come to you with about 15 years of franchising experience, including a founder of a mid-sized franchise organization nationwide, had 148 franchises, and I was the founder CEO for 8 years. I've also done consulting for about a dozen other brands, and have been with the ERA for over a year now, and I'm very, very proud of the model we have together to share today. I'm going to fly through a lot, so put on your seatbelt. ERA candidates, franchise candidates, tend to be quite savvy business people. I'm not going to offend you by keeping it too low level, but I am going to fly through a lot of information quickly, and I very much look forward to any questions you have. So feel free to write them down. At the end, you'll be able to raise your hand and I think share on this call with your voice, or you can type it in over on the side, and we'll read it and then answer it. So, and let's see, how do I switch? Do I just click on it?
You see a little arrow down below your name? If not, I can just go ahead and advance it for you.
Ah, thank you. I found it. There we go, guys. See, anybody can do this business. So ERA, in a nutshell, we've been around for 30 years. We've been 24 years in franchising. We're in about 30 countries now, 700 franchise partners globally. We are the global leader in cost management and procurement consulting. It's a mouthful. Don't get intimidated. It's a simple business. In the U.S., we're at about 160 franchisees. Our North American Support Center here in Dallas, Texas, we've saved our clients nearly $1 billion, over 18,000 cost-saving projects, over 5,000 clients. So we know what we're doing, needless to say. This slide, in a nutshell, is the opportunity. It's the franchise ownership for successful executives. When I say executive, I'm not talking just C-suite or VPs. You could have been a manager, a director, or just have some significant business experience. My ideal candidates understand business. They're able to communicate comfortably and confidently with senior executives, and then they're able to follow a proven system for success and have some patience in doing so. It's a white-collar opportunity. You work from home, work from anywhere you want. Just about every candidate I speak with is looking for work-life flexibility, to be able to own their life and get their life back. Definitely a low investment, no brick and mortar, no employees required, but you can scale it and build a nice sized practice if that's your goal. Certainly it helps on the exit strategy as well as you build a larger practice with additional employees if you choose to go that route. Believe it or not, most of my franchisee partners don't choose to go that route. They just want to own it themselves, be by themselves, and not have to worry about all the things that come with growing a practice. The opportunity is untapped. We've got every organization, profit, nonprofit, government, they all want to reduce costs, and we work with a lot of them. You'll learn more quickly through this that it's a win-win contingency model. It's a no risk, no financial risk to the client. Residual income is certainly a cornerstone of wealth building, and it's very much a cornerstone of the ERA opportunity. Your residual income can be 2 years, it can be 20 years per client and per project. You'll understand more as we go through this. Now, very much a differentiator for us is your ability to focus on your strengths, what you enjoy, and frankly, what you're going to make the most money at and have fun doing. So whether you want to be a client acquirer and client manager in the ERA system, or you're going to focus more on that category expertise, especially if you built your career in an expense category and you've got a lot of strong insider knowledge about that category, that may be the role you want to play on a daily basis. I have some franchisees, maybe close to 20% of my franchisees, that do some of both, client acquisition and category expertise. And really, if you look at it this way, one type of franchisee finds the client, the other type of franchisee finds the money for the client. And together, they make a very lucrative business model. It is very much a relationship business, whether you're building relationships with the CFOs and CEOs of middle market organizations, or you're going to be building lots of long-term relationships with your peers, your franchisees across the nation and across the globe. Pro-growth model, that simply means you're not restricted to a zip code or 10 city blocks or a 2-mile radius. Since many of our candidates have relationships across the nation, we allow them to maximize those relationships, either that they've already have or to get referrals. So you're able to close deals all over the nation while still having exclusivity locally, where you can go into our online system, our intranet, and put your name on prospects within your market, and when I say market, it's a typical size of about a state or two. You can put your name on them and no one else pursue them. So you've got exclusivity while not being hampered by geographic boundaries in client acquisition. Lastly, the two biggest values I think you get with this ERA opportunity. You be part of a trusted global brand, be a partner and owner in this trusted global consultancy. And lastly, and by far the strongest, and that's why I put it in gold, is the priceless franchisee network. The opportunity is really nothing without that. The hundreds of franchisees around the country and around the globe collaborating together, bringing each other into projects, and really helping each other raise the bar, and that kind of rising tide raising all ships is extremely potent in that the franchisee network. As we move through it, I want to assure you there are no markets that are not available, meaning all across North America and Central America, I've got availability everywhere. We are not even in a single U.S. market, even 20% close to franchisee limits. We have not even scratched the scratch in a single market of even 0.5% of our potential client base, so an unlimited opportunity across anywhere you want to go. This slide is important to understand. This is not competition per se. It's our brand image. My candidates have had success. They oftentimes covet to keep that executive edge or maybe that status. They want to be proud of sharing their business card at a dinner party or at Sunday school. And so they're able to rest assured that ERA's global brand image is like that of some of these bigger names that you see on the screen here. A side note is I'm real proud to say that Deloitte, KPMG, Accenture, and Ernst & Young have all hired ERA consultants to either help internally, to actually help those organizations save money, or in many cases to represent those organizations to their clients in some cost-saving efforts that perhaps they didn't have expertise in, or perhaps they weren't willing to follow a contingency model like ERA for business follows, that of taking on the risk ourselves. So it's yet one more testimony to the power of our network and the quality of our franchisees. Jumping forward, just a quick slide on a lot of the different various backgrounds of ERA franchisees. There's no one profile that is successful. It come from a variety, very broad variety of backgrounds. Thousands of clients, as you heard before. Here's some of the more well-known ones that allow us to use their logos. You see some Pfizers and Samsungs and Virgins and Mary Kays on here. A lot of billion-dollar Fortune 500 companies, while at the same time we work with a lot of smaller ones as well. What categories? You know, I no longer say we have expertise in 48 categories or whatever number it is. Really, every category that matters, every significant cost category for middle market organizations and above, we have franchisees with world-class expertise in those cost categories. Here's an example of the most common categories. There's 40-something on this screen, but you'll be hard-pressed to find an expense category out there that middle market and larger organizations have that we don't have some serious expertise in being able to find money for them. Jumping over on the roles again, two primary roles a franchisee can fulfill, that of client acquisition and management, or that of being a category specialist or analyst. Certainly, if you have the ability, you can fulfill both. Finance, money. It is a low investment, $59.9 in the U.S., $66 Canadian, and $49.9 in Mexico. That's in U.S. dollars. So low investment. There's not a whole lot past that. In the U.S., if you look at our FTD, it'll say the investment is 66 to 86. That's basically the full investment in your first year. So around 70 is what most people find is their first year investment. The royalty or management service center fee for all the things we do for you is 15% of your gross. It's important to note that I added the management service center fee verbiage in there because it's so much more than a royalty. With all the training, which you never get charged for, it's always a loss leader for ERA. All this and all the training is included in your franchise fee forever, unless you've got some ancillary costs like travel, and any other. Like we do the collections efforts for you and the disbursement of cash flow for you. So that can be a really significant part of your daily activities if we didn't do that for you, and we most certainly do. So 15% of your gross cash flow, and then the only other thing would be 3%. Goes into an ad fund or a marketing co-op to help you grow your business. We invest it on your behalf. Moving forward, really proud of this award we got recently. Franchise Research Institute is the only organization out there that is truly unbiased, not impacted by money to get you good scores or good grades. They did a confidential research and quite in-depth survey of our franchisees. We got some extremely high scores. In fact, they put us in the top category. What they say is the top 1% of franchisors would achieve this level of satisfaction for their franchisees. So really proud of this. You'll see a lot of happy and successful franchisees. There's more on that there. Our item 19, I'm also very proud of. This is in the FDD, the franchise disclosure document you'll see. Our average franchisee across the nation making $152 a year, $152,000, and you can see the different tiers: top 20% income earners, the bottom 20%, the middle 20%. So important numbers for you to understand. And something I'm getting added to this soon is the fact that 45% of my current franchisees are investing less than 30 hours a week into their business. So when you take nearly half of a franchise organization and you realize they're part-time, and then you look at that organization as a whole and realize the average is still over $10,000 a month net, it's a very strong model to take a serious look at. And by the way, most of my franchisees have not leveraged it and scaled it by adding additional income streams through other employees or partners. So this is one individual's efforts for the most part. In fact, for all the part, I excluded anyone that had multiple employees. So this is only individual operators on this screen. Next, we've got a lot of events. I won't bore you with the 100 different trainings we do every year all over the nation, but a big one coming up in October is our North American Conference in Cabo. It will be a fantastic time. Lots of great networking and collaborations and learnings. Lots of fun too. You know, you hear global consulting firm, you start falling asleep. At least I do. Well, we got franchisees making some fun videos. Some, in this case, these folks are our franchise team in Spain. They did a fun rock video that everybody continues to talk about months after it was done. I want to keep all my candidates and folks I'm working with very abreast of the process, where they are in the discovery process, making sure you're comfortable with next steps and you understand next steps. So I always give my candidates this screen twice, in fact, at the beginning of the process to make sure they understand where they're going. I never want you to have a question about that. My contact info, ERA's contact info here, and then constantly, if you've talked to me even once, you always hear me talking about what's next and upcoming events. We've got plenty of them, from webinars like this to Discovery Day open houses to trainings of all sort across the nation and locally, and then kickoff events for new franchisees. So we've got our next franchisee training in Dallas, Texas, for across North America starting in this coming September. So anyone on this call would likely be coming to September 19th through 31st, 2 weeks of pretty strong financial foundation training for ERA consultants. And the last screen in this discussion is the one-pager. Everything you saw in this conversation, in this presentation, is on this screen in a nutshell. This is the ERA opportunity. It includes everything you get in a nutshell. So I'm happy to get this sent over to you as a one-pager. I'm sure Blair and Paige can as well. And for now, if you've got some questions, love to hear them. I know some of you on the call I've actually been speaking with, so hopefully a lot of this is old hat to you and just reinforcement of what you already know. But if you do have some questions, I welcome them. You're welcome to raise your hand and we can talk on this call, or you can type your question in and I'll read it and then answer it.
So
Paige and Kelly.
I'll go ahead and, yeah, I'm back. This is Paige again. So what I'll go ahead and do, Red, is just to kind of close this out. And, you know, like I said, Red said, if you want to raise your hand or just, you know, speak up, we can answer any questions you might have. But I wanted to kind of close this out. So we've been working with expense reduction analysts for many years now. And traditionally, you know, we're placing, you know, white-collar executives into this business. Quite often, you know, the clients that I've placed are individuals making $150,000 all the way up to $400,000 or $500,000 a year of annual income, but they're really looking to take control of their own life. They like working with white-collar executives in the C-suite space, and they're looking for a business that they can scale to be very large, but ideally one where they don't have a lot of employees, maybe some associates that they bring on later, but something where they can use their skill set and their expertise, and they can leverage that through a very strong, seasoned franchise system like ERA. So I think hopefully Red, in, you know, a very quick period of time, was able to exemplify that. As far as how you're going to learn more about ERA, Kelly James, our administrator, will reach out to you. A few things. One, we will be able to send you a recorded version of this webinar so you can review it with family, friends, or colleagues. Two, if you haven't already started working with an associate in your market, we will connect you to whoever that FranNet associate is who's closest to you, because we do work locally. And they will also invite you to take our personal online franchise assessment. And then if it's appropriate, we will connect you with ERA, and then they can start the process with you, and then Red and his team can explain how they take you through the research. And then keep in mind your FranNet associate, whether it's myself or Blair or one of our other 10 associates, will help make sure that we're doing the appropriate research with that. So I don't see any hands raised. So before we stop the recording, is there anyone online who has a specific question for Red about ERA, or for me, Paige, about FranNet before we stop the recording?
Looks like I put them all to sleep, Paige.
Well, what that probably means, Red, is you did a good job of explaining what ERA does. I know several people that were online today are already in process with you or are working with another FranNet associate. But as I said, we will send everyone a copy of the recording. and you will be contacted by either myself or Blair or Kelly James, and then we will get you connected with Red and his team over at ERA. So Red, thank you very much for your time today. I very much appreciate it. Thank you all for everyone who's been on the webinar, and we'll look forward to helping you and working with you in the future. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.